Why did you
There you go, Ricky. Give your helmet to Brian. Ricky, hang that bat up for me, would you?
Okay. I'll bring your pretzel back.
Get ready, guys. All right, Brian, what do you say now? Do everything right, boss. Okay, Dave, it's coming right to you, Pat. It's coming right to you.
Jump up! Wait for a good one.
Your pitch, Brian. Your pitch, buddy.
Hey, Rick, find your cap and come sit down. Find your cap over there. Rick, it's over there, isn't it? I get old slick in the on deck. So.
Out of game!
Hey.
Watch the bat, Rick!
3 and 2.
Yeah, we can do that. Where are you at? You're right.
Jeffrey Stevens, do it again, and you're grounded to get home with a spanking.
David, you got your hat on now? Leave it on. Get ready.
I can't do nothing about it.
The eye.
Okay, gets the bat.
All right, Killer, what do you say?
Hey, Rick.
No more. What's enough?
Got that big bat.
We didn't use it last time.
Well, that one's all yours now.
Yeah, there's age now, drink after them, and it's like, okay, here's your cup, go for it. Look right up. Get another bandage. But it was, how many inches is it? 30?
30.
30.
We'll grow into it.
I used to get it because I thought it was nice to be hanging in this room. I wanted to bring it with me.
Quit ducking, Rick.
Get that on his film.
Yeah, he is.
He'll grow up in town like that.
Ricky was not gonna kill.
Get in there, Rick. Hit that ball now.
That's my bag.
Side, take your base. Hustle down there, Rick. Hustle down.
It's got 30.
Somebody else is the bag. Hear me.
Yeah.
David, come on in.
Your mom.
Run, David. Hey, come on, run.
How many do we got so far? What's that at first? You or the other guy?
The other guy.
I need to be behind home plate so I can show him how he's backing away. This kid really, he's scared of the ball. He can walk just as well not backing away, not swinging. Pitch is outside and he's backing away.
Well, that's a regular baseball, but
Nice shot, Nick. No, I don't. I was looking around
Yeah, that's good quick. Keeps it low. They should have been pitching him a long time ago.
Hey, guys, sit on the bench.
Let go. Little help, Alex.
All right.
There's 2 outs. One thing we got in our favor.
Billy, back behind the backstop.
Them hens are gone down there.
All right.
At the head.
Hi, Emily.
Hi.
Emilee's first day of kindergarten, September 4th, 1990. You all ready to go?
Yeah.
What's your teacher's name?
Mrs. White.
Walk over there. Rick, put that down before... Emily, there's dirt on the bottom of it. Put it down. Ricky, who's your teacher? Oh, Mrs. Kruger doesn't see this movie.
Huh? What?
I hope Mrs. Kruger doesn't see this movie.
Why, are you going to take it?
I might.
No.
No, I want to be here since it's the first day. I'd hate to be gone.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that important that I go. I went last night, so. Hi, Emily. Not too much of a ham, is she? She's something. You be good. You didn't give me a kiss. Why don't you put your backpack on your shoulders? You be a good girl and I'll be here waiting, okay?
Have fun at school. Okay? Have fun with Mrs. Wright. Okay. She'll like Miss Wright. Oh,
Just be sure and raise your hand, Emily, before you talk.
yeah.
Rick, did I get a kiss? Didn't think so.
Come on, Tom.
I don't want you to miss my
No, you want to be first.
Don't, Emily. Shut up.
I said these two will get on the bus and probably start fighting. Ricky, no, Ricky and Emily.
Oh.
Here it comes.
Now who's that?
Josh Doyle. Remember him? Sarah's in 8th grade.
Okay, six.
I think. Gosh, yeah, I guess so, because they're 2 years apart.
Have fun, guys, girls.
Have fun, Rick. Be good.
He really likes it.
I know, she's so nice.
Deanna's sitting with them.
Is she? Good. I cannot see through this one. Oh, oh, she didn't act like it bothered her, did she? Oh, God.
I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, Mama.
Hi, Em. How was your day?
Fine.
Did you have fun?
Uh-huh.
Did
That little boy was talking to me. It's that Mary's house.
Yeah, I used to play with him when you were little babies together at Mary's. Boy, you sure were on the bus a long time. How come? Did something happen?
No.
Well, how come it lasted so long?
At 5. The Missouri Attorney General is investigating whether a local fitness club has violated the law because the club closed down.
As our News 4 Action team was first to report on Monday, a popular local health club shut its doors on 800 of its members today. News 4's Pat Malloy was on the scene.
Cord injury. Basically, she broke her neck. Her family has been notified, but the hospital is not releasing her name as of yet. Now, Walter Richards and I did a check of 14 area hospitals at 3:45, and we found that one other hospital has reported that a patient came in for a heat-related illness. Yesterday, at least 5 people reported heat-related illnesses and checked into local hospitals. So the searing heat wave that's been hanging around St. Louis, that has been treacherous up to this point, is now deadly. Now, the best recommendation from hospital officials is if you have to go outside, make sure you drink a lot of water, any type of fluid. Try not to go outside and stay in the sun for any length of time if you're not in good shape, or even if you are, you might want to think twice about doing anything strenuous out in this heat. That's the report here from Barnes. One woman is dead, reportedly victim of this heat wave. I'm Dana King. Back to you in the studio.
Well, Dana, the heat can be dangerous, but just how unusual is it?
Dave's here now with the answer to that question.
Well, we typically see our fair share of heat this time of year. If you've lived around St. Louis at all, you know, especially during the first 2 weeks of the month, it can be very hot in St. Louis. It's really not until the end of the month, as the days get shorter, that we start to see consistently cooler weather. Now, as far as the heat we're now seeing, it's certainly well above normal, and I thought it might be interesting to go back on this date over the last 10 years to see how hot it's been. The record is 103 degrees, but today is by far the hottest September 5th in the last decade. Temperatures typically in the 80s and low 90s. The next hottest compared to today, where we hit 100 degrees, was 94 in 1985, the coolest being 79 in 81. Now, the reason for the heat is a tremendous dome of high pressure that is stuck right over us. And unfortunately, it is not going anywhere for the next couple of days. We'll have that complete forecast coming up in about 10 minutes.
Check with you later.
Okay.
Thanks.
Well, today's classrooms just aren't set up to handle today's heat. That forced several districts to shut down this afternoon. Temperatures hit 98 before 11 this morning. For crews working outside, it was time to take precautions. But for students in unair-conditioned schools, it was time to take off. School kids were sent home early in over a dozen districts. In Pattonville, high school students had to tough it out, but elementary and middle school students were sent home just after noon. From Hillsboro to House Springs, it was a similar story. And in the Metro East, one school in Alton and all schools in Granite City were on early release. Several parents showed up to pick up their children, but for many others who are working, the changes created havoc with their schedules. A few schools in the Metro East have already been open a week, but for most schools in the St. Louis area, today was just the second day of the school year.
Well, air conditioners would make a difference on days like these, but school officials say it's a luxury they just cannot afford. As Channel 2 education reporter Sharon Stevens reports, that luxury may become a necessity in the near future.
I've never seen him quite that disoriented, tired, sweating. It was very unusual for him to be in that frame of mind or in that condition.
Candy Green's son, Kevin, attends Bearbaum Elementary School. The hot weather and shortened school day are hard on him. Melville schools are only in session half a day. And like most schools, this one does not have air-conditioned classrooms. School officials say air conditioning is not something the voters will agree to pay for.
Very expensive, very expensive. I'm not sure what the estimates would be to air condition every building in our district.
It would double the cost of the capital improvements project, and we're having problems finding enough money for that now.
Each time school ends early because of inclement weather or some other emergency, that time must be made up for at the end of the school year. But that might be difficult once Missouri extends the number of mandatory school days, perhaps as early as next September.
Many educators and parents oppose an extended school year because of our long, hot summers.
I would prefer if they could find a way of either lengthening the day by a short period of time or rearranging the days off.
Meanwhile, Melville and other suburban school districts will continue to operate on a half-day schedule for the rest of the week. Sharon Stevens, Channel 2 News.
School districts are providing students with extra water breaks and are encouraging students to wear lightweight clothing and to slow down. So far, there are no plans to close St. Louis public schools.
But there are plans to close schools in other parts of our community. On Thursday, early closings are set for St. Peter and Paul School, Northwest R1 in Hot Springs, the Normandy District, and the Bayless District. On Thursday and Friday, early closings are planned for Fort Zumwalt, all Pattonville schools except the high school.
What kids eat for lunch in school is leaving a bad taste with the consumer group. The group says youngsters get too much fat in most schoolhouse lunches and in lunches they eat out of school. That concerns the organization Public Voice for Food and Policy.
The Vice President is at the Adams Mark Hotel in downtown St. Louis.
News Channel 5's Deanne Lane is also at the Adams Mark with this live report. Deanne?
Art and Kay, we are waiting for the Vice President to enter this building. He is here, of course, today for a fundraiser for the state Republican Party. A lot of the bigwigs here right now waiting for the Vice President's arrival. He is running about a half hour to an hour late. However, we are told that he is in the hotel building right now. He was expected to come out and greet this crowd right at 12 noon. However, we are still anxiously awaiting his presence. Earlier, or actually late this morning, he did arrive at Scott Air Force Base. as we're looking at him arriving there at Scott Air Force Base to address some of the men and women. He was initially responsible or expected to take a tour of the Missouri Airlift Command there, which has been so vital in the Persian Gulf crisis. Because he was running late, he cut that short, but he did talk to the men and women of Scott Air Force Base.
May God watch over you and your loved ones as you work with our president and our friends and allies around the world to build a lasting peace and a safer world. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for the sacrifices that you're making. And God bless each and every one of you. And God bless our great country, the United States of America. Thank you very much.
And as I mentioned, after that reception at Scott Air Force Base, he hopped in the limo and is now at the Adams Mark Hotel in a holding room. We're waiting for him to enter this ballroom and address the state Republicans. After he does that, he will meet with a few members of the media. I will be there, and of course we will be discussing the Persian Gulf crisis as well as the controversial budget happenings. We are expected to hear some kind of a proposal today from Washington from the budget negotiators, and we will get the Vice President's response to that. This is one of many stops that Quayle will be making throughout the area, throughout Illinois and Missouri, to raise money for Republicans. As soon as he enters the ballroom, we'll bring it to you. Reporting live from the Adams Mark, Deanne Lane, News Channel 5.
Deanne, an AIDS activist group was expected to demonstrate Dan Quayle's appearance. What's the status of that demonstration?
They are out there, Art. I'd say about 25 members of ACT UP St. Louis. ACT UP is, of course, the organization that received all the attention out in San Francisco during the AIDS conference. They are protesting against Quayle and Milford. They're protesting against Milford because of the stance he took with the Adopt a Highway program, and they are protesting against Quayle, saying that the Bush administration has not given them enough funding for AIDS research. And, of course, we'll have more on that story at 5 and 6. Still waiting for the Vice President. As soon as he gets here, we'll bring him to you.
Okay, thank you very much,
News Channel 5's Deanne Lane reporting from downtown.
Now we are listening to Governor John Ashcroft. We hope to hear from the Vice President in just a little bit. Of course, he is here at the Adams Mark and in Missouri today raising money for state Republicans. We'll hear from him in just a little bit. He's also here locally helping to drum up a lot of support for H.C. Milford, of course, running for county executive. We'll have more on the Vice President's visit coming up on News Channel 5 at 5 and 6. Back to you.
Quayle toured the Military Airlift Command Center, which coordinates all transportation of troops and military equipment to the Persian Gulf. In a speech at the base, Quayle said the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait proves the need for the military buildup in the 1980s. He also had some reassuring words for families with loved ones serving in the Gulf.
May God watch over you and your loved ones as you work with our president and our friends and allies around the world to build a lasting peace and a safer world.
The Vice President says the American public backs long-term intervention in the Gulf, but only as long as other countries are also involved.
And direct from Scott Air Force Base and the Military Airlift Command there, it was on to the Adams Mark Hotel for a state Republican fundraiser.
Keep on doing it because Missouri knows what's best. Thank you very much. God bless you.
While the Vice President's primary responsibility in St. Louis today and elsewhere in the coming months will be to drum up dollars and support in key political races, he is also on somewhat of a promotional tour, pumping up the President's stance in the Middle East. After his speech for local and state candidates, the Vice President met with reporters for a roundtable discussion, primarily focused on Operation Desert Shield. If you were to talk to our troops over there, what would you explain to them? What would you tell them while we're over there?
We are there on a mission of peace and a mission of stability. We are not there to preserve a so-called cheap oil policy. Many have said that that's the reason that we're there. That is not the case.
I also asked him about the Soviet claim of possibly linking the Kuwaiti invasion with the Israeli-Palestinian initiative in resolving this latest threat.
You're not going to combine what Saddam Hussein has done with the West Bank and the Palestinian issue.
Well, for a job well done. Quayle came here to help the Republican Party raise money. A chicken luncheon brought in $75,000, much of which will be used to help County Executive H.C. Milford's campaign. He bashed Democrats and Saddam Hussein. Later, the Vice President met with a select group of reporters. The emphasis was heavily on the Persian Gulf situation and on America's role there.
The American people will have to be patient with this policy of the President's. We hope that things and events will come our way in a short period of time. But if they don't, then it will be a longer period of time. Again, it comes down to what Saddam Hussein is willing to do.
Quayle chatted with us later about the media's role in covering the Persian Gulf story. He expressed some concern that TV is more often a part of the story than it should be. And Mr. Quayle told us that in his address to Congress tonight, President Bush will discuss what he will call a new world order.
And that speech will be broadcast nationwide, and it will center on the weekend summit in Helsinki and on the Persian Gulf. He'll also likely address the budget deficit battle. Channel 2, of course, will...
The high school band provided the music. The band had been told to play Hail Columbia when the Vice President walked in. Don Kinnison, the band director, told me that when he told the Republicans he didn't have the music, it was faxed from Washington, D.C. High-tech from the Republicans. At any rate, the band did great, but then, after they played Columbia, the Gem of the Ocean, when Quayle left, and it was time for the band to eat lunch, guess what? There weren't enough hamburgers. There weren't enough Cokes. The Republicans stiffed the kids. Well, it's a civics lesson, you say. True, but it was still a dumb thing for the Republicans to do. After all, these kids have parents who vote. It would have been smarter to stiff the people who paid $250 to hear Quayle. You know these people are going to vote Republican. So it was a silly thing. On the other hand, truth in advertising. Milford does call himself the unpolitician. I'm Bill McClellan.
Our time right now is 6:38 at 69 degrees in St. Louis. Alan Barklage will get you to work on time with the latest on traffic.
And in sports, rookie Ray Langford helps the Cards snap their losing streak. We'll show you the highlights.
In weather, we have some scattered showers across the metro area now, more in the way of significant rain off to our south and west. I'll have the forecast coming up.
Tales of the City is presented by the St. Louis Post.
Three silver arrow points. You get the legal colors is swimming pins, a belt loop for marble, Chuck sports participation pad. You get belt loops for basketball, skating, and it's legal color. Congratulations. Nick Rossi. Oh, there you are. Hi, Nick. You get the bear pin. You get the bear badge, 2-year pin, a gold arrow point, a silver arrow point, it's legal colors, and bear flag. Congratulations.
He's shaking it. We're on it now.
Ricky Garrison. Ricky has his bear badge, his 2-year pin, his mama bear pin, his basketball pin, his gold arrow point, and 2 silver arrow points, his legal colors, and bear flag. Congratulations. Steve Mentor. Steve has his bear badge, his 2-year pin, his mama bear pin, 2 silver arrow points, a gold arrow point, his belt loops for skating, a sports participation pad, his legal colors, and his tag. There you go. Congratulations.
Okay, but I want to make sure.